Hey,
Welcome to the
Janet,
space, friends.
Tammy.
Wonderful to gather together as we are finding our feet here in this virtual space. I invite you to consider and share in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. In a word or a phrase, how would you describe the energy that you are bringing to our event today? How would you describe the energy that you are bringing to our event today? I often ask that at the beginning of a coaching session, wanting to check in about what's important for me to know about you today, especially if it's an ongoing coaching relationship, just to have that touchstone. Okay, so here we are. Compassion, mildly distracted, nervous energy. Yes, thank you, Jason. Janet's pretty good. All right. I like that. I see that on your face even, Janet. Yeah. You're wearing that. I would say grateful for me, just energy of and feelings of gratitude for sure. So Katie, welcome to the space. We are sharing in a word or a phrase. If you feel comfortable doing so, how would you describe the energy that you're bringing to our space today? Just kind of checking in with ourselves as we're landing here and we pray that people will feel really comfortable being authentic about whatever that is.
A word or
So,
phrase. Uh,
right.
I'm in a neutral. Um,
Oh, okay.
I'm not carrying the burdens of the world with me at the moment, and I've got a lot of proactive energy of things that I'm getting done, but not quite complete yet. But the end is near, and so I guess I've kind of got that vibe with me today.
Excellent. Okay. I hear neutral and maybe a liminal space. So, yeah. And you're welcome in our space, as is everyone. We're so grateful that you're here. Um,
And this is key lime pie. He comes when he feels like it.
key lime pie. My nephew had a rabbit whose name was ranch dressing, so I'm familiar with pets that have names that are food names. So,
My
love it.
daughter has a rabbit, and his name is Loaf,
Okay.
like
Well,
the loaf of bread. So, yeah, I don't know what that means.
I don't know what this means, but Jason, if you leave this in the video, people are going to wonder what event they actually showed up for. But we're talking about diversity in our pet names, and I think that that can be encompassed in what we're doing today.
True.
So I love it. I love it, friends. And so with that, Jason, if you give me permission, I'm going to go ahead and launch in. Okay, wonderful. All right, friends. So I would like to say welcome to our fourth and final intentional learning opportunity in our series on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let us begin with a land and labor recognition. We acknowledge that much of our work takes place on the territory and ancestral lands of more than 574 Indigenous tribal nations across Turtle Island. We also acknowledge our debt to enslaved Africans and other ethnic communities whose labor and suffering built and grew the economy and infrastructure of a country that refuses to recognize their humanity. We invite you to take a moment to reflect on whose land you are living and working on, and if you do not know, to research and reflect. You can learn more about the native lands you reside on at the link that Jason is putting into the chat now. So, friends, in this fourth module, our time will be facilitated by three gifted leaders. The first is the Reverend Dr. Andrea Walker, who has supported us in all four of our specialized time of learning together. Dr. Walker is a gifted preacher, mentor, and leader who draws on her experience as pastor and formal global missions director to support her work in inspiring communities to embody the inclusive and transformative love of Jesus. Along with Dr. Walker, we are so pleased to have the Reverend Sonja Ware with us as coach in this specialized space. Sonja is a professionally credentialed coach in the International Coaching Federation. She is also part of our ELCA coaching national staff team, and she is an approved Intercultural Development Inventory administrator, which informs the specific type of coaching that will be demonstrated in the last half of our event today. And the client you will see in our coaching demonstration today is our one and only Jason O'Neill. Jason is one of our coaches that engaged in the IDI assessment and follow-up coaching that was offered late last year and maybe even earlier this year as well. We believe that our work in diversity, equity, and inclusion must be intentional and ongoing, and Jason has volunteered to share part of his journey in this intentional work with us through a coaching session. So, Jason, thank you for your vulnerability and generosity in volunteering to be the client today. And so, with that, again, welcome to everyone. And Dr. Walker, the floor is yours.
It is a pleasure to be here again with you. I'm going to ask Jason to put up the slides because I need my own visual not to get lost in my talking. And since I'm sharing time and space with others, I think I want to be on time. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about coaching across difference. And I think my two co-facilitators will show you what that is. But we're going to talk about who we are in the coaching moment. But first, we're going to say a prayer. Gracious God, be with us now as we work to discover our identities, as we work to help others. Help us to listen, reflect, and respond in love. Bless our time and conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. So the last diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation that I had, I talked about two books that I have been reading. One is Coaching for Equity by Elena Aguilar, and the other is The 9 Asks. So next, I hope that some of you have had time to read The 9 Asks. It's really helpful. It helps us to be as honest and vulnerable as possible, respect boundaries and thresholds, practice no judgment, honor confidentiality, come back to me or come back to yourself, respect the process of learning the right language, take the time to listen first, grant permission to go deeper or decline, and stay in your seat. I highly recommend for all coaches and anybody who does anything across differences, or if you just want to be a better human being. The 9 Asks, it's about creating safer and more courageous spaces. It helps if you're doing conferences, conversations, or it just helps. Now we're going to talk about going beyond the 9 Asks. So the core idea is simple tools like 9 Asks can open a doorway, but lasting change requires deeper formation, theology, posture, and practice. In other words, it's not only what I do as a coach, it's also who am I becoming as a coach in a diverse church and world. I'm going to cover 10 ideas, beginning with beyond politeness, one at a time, and offer a few questions you can bring into real coaching conversations. First, diversity and equity and inclusivity work isn't just about being polite or nice. It's rooted in the gospel, and I know that the ELCA coaching practice helps us to talk about theological depth, not just social skill. So we're going to remember the Imago Dei. Every person bears God's image. That shapes how we show up how we show up when we have reverence for each person's full humanity. God and incarnation, God meets us in a particular body, in a particular culture and context, not in abstraction. So coaching can't assume there's only one normal way to lead, speak, decide, or grieve. And then, of course, our Lutheran identity is rooted in law and gospel. We need the courage to name harm clearly, which is law, and then open space for change, repair, and new life, which is gospel. Avoiding tension doesn't create safe space. It often protects the status quo. So from the start, we're not aiming for surface inclusion. We're aiming for faithful coaching that tells the truth. Our second, we practice cultural humility, not simply cultural competence. Competence implies that we can master, we can say, oh yeah, I know all about that. I've got that down. Like we can finish learning a culture. Humility says, I will never arrive, so I stay curious. Key moves in coaching and in our coaching room could be curiosity instead of assumption, treating the coachee as the expert on their own lived experience, not ignoring the stories that they bring or the things that they tell you because that's not your experience. Making sure you're listening to them, being correctable without defensiveness. Sometimes we don't get it right. I get it wrong as a pastor. I get it wrong all the time, and I have to go back to people and say, "Oh, my bad. How can I do better?" Practical line to use instead of saying "I understand." Try help me understand what that experience is like for you. Humility shapes our posture, but we also have to talk about something even bigger: power. Power awareness. And this is something we often don't think about, because when we're one-on-one with somebody, we might be thinking we're all equals. But coaching is never power neutral. Even when we mean well, the relationship, the institution, or our identities shape what feels speakable and what feels risky. Power dynamics to keep in view: race, gender, sexual orientation, role, title, church structures, especially how church systems have often centered whiteness and specific cultural norms. 3 self-check questions to ask regularly: who has voice? Whose norms are being centered? What is not being said because it feels unsafe? Power awareness changes what we listen for, and that leads us into deep listening across difference. Okay, I'm not running out of time, so I'm going to slow down a little bit. Deep listening across differences, it's more than active listening. It's listening with awareness of history, harm, resilience, and context. It often requires tolerance for discomfort. Sometimes we get uncomfortable when someone will say, no, you got that wrong, or that doesn't feel right for me. We get uncomfortable, and we think we have to defend ourselves. Sometimes just sitting in our own discomfort and taking it in helps. Slowing down the impulse to need to fix or interpret something. Like if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. And listening for what is beneath words. Sometimes I know that sometimes when I'm in a new situation, I will tell stories or talk very surface. And in order for someone to really understand what I'm getting at, they have to go a layer beneath the surface conversation that I'm having. So can we ask ourselves, can we say to ourselves, I'm going to slow us down here so I don't rush past what matters. Sometimes in the coaching moment, people are trying to discover some new things about themselves, and they reveal things about themselves that you as a coach may not have experienced or may not understand. But we have to ask ourselves often, what's under the surface of that? Am I really hearing what they're saying? Ooh, this conversation doesn't make me comfortable. And how can we sit with that with the person that we're coaching? How can we sit in that? And when we listen this deeply, we also need awareness of trauma. This is a hard one. Many people, especially those from marginalized communities, carry trauma connected to church harm, racism, sexism, exclusion, or institutional betrayal. Trauma awareness looks like not pushing vulnerability too quickly, recognizing signs of shutdown or overwhelm, and treating boundaries as wisdom, not with resistance. Sometimes I have this Bible study group. It's not a coaching section, but I'm an African American pastor, and my congregation is not African American. So usually when I'm having Bible study, I may be the only African American in the room. So we'll study scripture, and then we'll move off into areas, and we'll start talking about politics or what's in the news or some other subject. And I will say something that members in my group have never heard before. And I have to realize that I'm the one in power in this situation, and that I have to bring them along with me. And sometimes when I say, like, someone will say something, I say, that appears to me to be racist. Now, that's a hard thing to say to the ladies in your Bible study that are members of your congregation and that you love them. But I'm not saying that to hurt their feelings. I'm saying that so that they understand how they show up sometimes in situations. And if I can't say that, people that they deal with in their everyday life will never be able to share that. So sometimes I have to, I am triggered sometimes by conversations that are had in my own congregation. And so that's hard for me. So I'm just bringing up an incidence of trauma awareness. And so, but if no one ever tells you, you don't know that that has triggered some trauma response in another person. Just know that when you're coaching across difference, something you may say could bring some memory of being treated badly. And so if you can sit with that and not shut down and not let them shut down, and honor their boundaries if they don't want to go further in whatever that conversation may be, that would be helpful. Would it be a simple question would it be okay if we stay with this a little longer, or would you rather shift to something else? And I know sometimes that's hard. Next, we need to examine what we call professional in church spaces. Expanding what professionalism means. In many settings, professionalism defaults to white, middle class norms. If we don't name that, coaching can quietly pressure people to conform rather than show up authentically. Okay. Has everybody heard the term code switch? So, as an African American, I show up differently in different spaces. And I try not to code switch, but sometimes I do. And I know perfectly well how to govern myself by white middle class standards of being. But sometimes I don't. And that needs to be okay. In many settings, communication styles, I have a very direct communication style. Many people in my church, and I've learned that the former pastor of the congregation I serve had a very indirect communication style. And so some people are put off by my directness. And I tell stories. Like, you have bullet points down there, but I'm telling you stories. So I will default to storytelling versus bullet points. Emotional expression. What is considered appropriate? I I startled my council in my last council meeting because I said something like, "That's not going to happen." And so that was an inappropriate response coming from me, and it was very direct, and it was exactly what I meant. But I had to backtrack a little bit and say, "Oh, remember where you are, Andrea, and this is too much." So when is my style of communication going to be accepted? I'm still waiting. The other thing is time orientation and decision making. Pace, punctuality, expectations, urgencies. These are all things that we have to take into considerations, and to know that different cultures experience these things in different ways. We have to think about, when we're making decision, who speaks first, how consensus is formed. And sometimes when we're coaching, maybe we should ask, maybe we should say, let's name the norms we're using here. Who does it fit and who does it disadvantage? And language matters too. But we need to be clear about what language can and cannot accomplish. Language is not enough. Inclusive language matters, but it's not the goal. It's the baseline. Language without shared power can become performative. I know that, well, that's not a good example. So we look beyond words to questions like, how are decisions made? Who is included in shaping outcomes? Do marginalized voices actually influence direction? I know that there's a lot of people in my context that have a problem simply with pronouns. And pronouns are important. They may not be important to you, but for a whole group of people, they're very, very important. So our language is not enough, but how do we move past our language? How do we move into accepting? How do we move into hearing what people say to us instead of dismissing what they say, especially those with marginalized voices? How do we, I remember, okay, I'll use language from the Black community. When I was a kid, we were called Negroes. And as I grew up, we were called Afro Americans. And then we became African Americans. And now most people in my community prefer to be called Black. So this ideal language, you have to understand the language and then understand what's behind the language. Why did this group of people go from this to this to this to this? And so that's important. It's a part of our history. And most people don't know that. What I just told you, you probably never heard before. But it is a part of my cultural history. And so when you're coaching across difference, how can you understand the group that you're with a little better? I have a story to tell. I was privileged to go teach Native American teal members about preaching this year. And I am trying to learn about the Native American culture. I don't know a whole lot, and I'm reading books, I'm learning. But there was a song that one of the young women began to sing, and something in the song that she began to write to sing touched me at the core of my of being, and I began to cry. And for something about this culture, I knew instinctively, but I have no cognitive understanding of that. But I had a guttural and a spiritual understanding of that. How can we um, begin to understand the cultures and the people that we're in relationship deeper? And that's why language alone is not enough. We have to um, be accountable for broadening our own horizons. Okay, accountability. Oh, I said the word accountability and feedback loops. If we want an inclusive coaching practice, we need feedback from people different from us, and we need real mechanisms for learning and repair. That means inviting honest critique and meaning it, being willing to repair when harm is done, engaging peer coaching with a diversity, equity, inclusivity lens, using supervision or do you have someone in your coaching cohort who can help you in coaching across differences? A question you can ask a coaching or a cohort is, what is one thing I could do differently that would make this space more trustworthy for someone like you? And that's a hard thing, but being in relationship with people different than you so that you can ask their advice, get their feedback, that's important. So I often ask people, tell me when I'm showing up too direct. Okay, now this all is very demanding work. And it's not just technical. It's just not knowing the right things to do. It's about taking care of yourself and your own spirituality as you do this work. So coaches need practices that sustain them. And especially if you're coaching across difference and you're listening and you're taking things in, you're saying when you don't get it right, you're trying to reduce harm, we can get burnt out and kind of brittle. Like if people say, oh, that's wrong, or oh, you hurt my feelings, that could wear on us a little bit. And so confession and repentance is important, naming when we fall short, praying for openness and courage, and having a community around us that tells the truth, not just affirms us. I have I'm not coaching, but I do live across differences and pastor across differences. And I have people in my congregation that I trust, and I will ask them, tell me when I get it wrong. Tell me when I'm being too direct. Tell me, and trust me, they do. But that's good for me because I learn. And I want to always be in a posture of being curious and learning. And all these points bring us to a final destination, and that's inclusion versus justice. Commitment to justice, not just inclusion. Inclusion says you can come in. And yes, I'm opening to coaching you. Justice says we will want. Okay, I know this is a typo. We will change what harms you once you're here. So I left out, we will change what harms you once you're here. And thank you, Jason. And we hope that coaching that honors difference doesn't help individuals adapt. It has the possibility to help leaders imagine and build new systems. You know, my goal, and I probably won't get there. I probably won't get there. But my goal is to change the world one relationship at a time. And I think a commitment to justice, not just inclusion, will make us all partners in changing the world that we live in. We live with difference. And so how do we show up when we're coaching across difference? And that's what this is all about. And so I want to leave you with one question, not a checklist. I want to leave you with one question. Instead of how do I include others, try asking what in me or in the systems I support needs to change so others can fully belong. I know I will imagine that as coaches, what you want is for people to trust you. And so thinking about these things when you're coaching across difference will help you build coaching relationships of trust. And I don't know, and it will help me change the world because that's my goal. It's changing the world. And I think my 30 minutes is up.
All right.
The resources that I use.
Thank you. And friends, if you need support in securing either one of these resources, my email address is in the chat. I will work with you to get those resources into your hands. And so, friends, let's give Dr. Walker a virtual, yay, applause. So this sets the table, friends, for the next thing that will happen. Andrea, I've taken 5 pages of notes, just so you know.
Oh, don't.
I am a
PowerPoint.
I'm a chronic note taker and I love it. It helps me digest what I'm learning. And so, friends, I encourage you as we transition to Coach Sonja.
I just have one question for Sonja. Did what I said make sense?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're the expert in coaching. I just want to know if what I said makes sense.
Yeah. Even to the point, because I work so much with the mission development congregational vitality coaches, that I was wondering if you would be willing to bring this into the training space of the mission development congregational vitality coaches. It would be so worthwhile.
Well, we'll talk.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you. I love that organic connecting and multiplication of learning that's happening even in this beginning of our event together. So friends, I encourage you to take everything that we just heard from Dr. Walker, use that as a lens as we now are blessed to watch this coaching demonstration with Coach Sonja Ware, coaching our colleague Jason O'Neill. And I believe Sonja has a setup for this next part. So, but I encourage you while Sonja is doing that, grab something to take some notes, friends, because we encourage you to make some observations. We will unpack this together. And in addition to observations, any questions that you have that pop up, grab those and we'll try to get to those as quickly as possible at the end. Okay. Did I do an okay job of setting you both up for the next portion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I just wanted to suggest before we go into the coaching session that I just do a brief review or overview of the IDI, either as a refresher or as an introduction. And then Jill, I wanted to know, because you want to have time afterwards for reflection still, right? So how long do you want, I'm sure you said that before, but how long do you want us to coach?
Jason is always in charge of time.
Jason, how long do you want to be coached?
Not helpful. Um, I think with your intro, we probably still could go up to 30 minutes, I think, and still have, that give us
Yeah.
about 20 minutes at the end, I think would be good for some debrief time and then if people have questions.
That resonates.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. So just to share with you all a brief overview of the IDI. So the Intercultural Development Inventory is an assessment tool, really, with 50 questions that you can answer online, and then it gives you, it places us as on this intercultural development continuum in two ways. One is the more conscious way or wishful way, and then the other one is the less conscious or more where others might experience us kind of way. And most of the time, we overestimate ourselves. And that can be felt as a disappointment as we get our results back. But my intention always is in the coaching to really see this as a place of growth and something that really empowers us. Because it visualizes something for us that then empowers us to have a sense of direction, how we might grow or nurture our own development. And so just because Jason and I will probably talk a little bit about this, I have no idea what he's coming up with, but just to set you all up, this is the intercultural development continuum. It goes from a monocultural mindset to an intercultural mindset. Denial and polarization are considered monocultural mindsets. Acceptance and adaptation are considered intercultural mindsets. And minimization is this bridge mindset where we grow from monocultural mindset to intercultural mindset. And overall, this is not like a performance review. It is really something that visualizes how we have been exposed and have been able to learn. And might even vary on context, although the IDI gives an overall overview. But I'm always cautious that even somebody who might score within, like be or somewhere around acceptance already, you give them a whole new topic, they might have to like catch up from and because denial is not that it denies difference, it totally misses difference. So the wording is sometimes a little bit tricky because we have judgments around the wording, even polarization and so on. So I oftentimes invite people to see this more as a pendulum. It's not that we are like static, like a little peg on a board, and then all we do is like do a forward movement, but there is a more diverse movement for us internally in our own growth as we're working through this. And so denial is somebody who totally like has been living in a very monocultural environment and totally misses difference, might not be even aware of it. I oftentimes share the story of this Indian Christian in India who grew up in a Christian village and during his childhood thought that everybody in India was Christian because he never left his village. And then he ventured out and realized, oh my, India is very different than how I had pictured it. And that was his learning curve. And he then wrote a book about interreligious experiences and all the friends he made. Polarization is where we divide the world into us versus them. And actually, in our political climate, I sometimes wonder how we all regress into that. I mean, all I have to do is turn on Fox News to challenge myself a little bit. And I feel like I'm in that mindset right away. A lot of newscasters, if you listen to them, even on your favorite news channel, go into this polarized mindset, no matter how they would potentially score there. So that's also a point of humility that we have that capacity to regress depending on what's going on. So that's like the judging of difference. Minimization de-emphasizes difference, and that's a really important developmental step. Many of us score in that, and that is not that we're in a bad place. That's a really powerful place where we find out commonalities, and the commonalities are what take the fear away of difference. So we need to work through minimization in order to reach the place of acceptance where we now boldly can deeply comprehend difference because it doesn't scare us anymore. Now the curiosity can grow. And in that curiosity, acceptance often struggles with, oh my goodness, the differences are this big. How am I ever going to bridge them? So now acknowledging those differences and then learning how to bridge even across deeper differences in creative ways. So that's sort of like the intercultural development continuum. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and just want to briefly check with the group if there are any questions right now before Jason and I go in, or comments. Dr. Walker, I think you are also a qualified administrator, so I'm also very curious about your input.
I think that I know that even in my beginning of taking the IDI, I've grown from one place to another, and I'm hoping to continue to grow. So it just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean I've gotten it all figured out, because I've grown up in a specific place and time, and so I still had to I still have a lot of growing and learning to do.
Yeah. And that is another important piece of the IDI because it is infinite. So you cannot outgrow the IDI, which is this acknowledgement that Dr. Walker mentioned earlier. You cannot become an expert in culture. We are always learning. Any other questions or comments?
I see Katie asked in the chat where they can take the IDI.
So in general, with any qualified administrator, so you could contact me, but I think Dr. Walker is also a qualified administrator. Don't know if you're still taking people, but I can do it. So you work with a qualified administrator, which means they send you a link and then you take it online, and then the qualified administrator sends you so you get two documents. One is the report with the results, and one is a plan, a developmental plan, which is, I call that a coach on paper, really. And then it's always paired with a coaching session about the results, which I find really important so that we're not all left alone with them. I know there are other people in the ELCA that are qualified administrators as well. Jill, do you have a list of those? I don't even know how to.
I don't have a list. I only know that Pastor Tita Valeriano, who is the Senior Director for Asian Pacific Islander Communities, is also a qualified assessor for IDI. So
Yeah.
with some digging I could probably find more. But we have two in this small space. Like, how cool is that, right?
Yeah, so I can later put or if Jill puts my email address in the chat, feel free to reach out to me and I'll let Dr. Walker speak for herself.
So I'm having some challenges right now. So I'm not taking on a whole lot of things. So if you if you're desperate and you can't find anybody else, yes. But for that right now, I'm having some health challenges, so I'm not taking on a lot of stuff.
Thank you. Okay, maybe if there are any other questions, we can circle back at the end. I want to make sure that Jason gets his coaching time in. Jill, do we ask people to turn off their cameras? What do we do? That's usually what I'm used to. And mute yourselves, and then there's Jason and me.
Yeah, and I'll spotlight the two of us too, just to make
Okay,
it
that
easier.
sounds lovely.
Yeah, that helps me too, if that's okay, so that I can focus on you and not everybody else.
Here we are. Yeah. Hi,
Oh,
Jason.
hi.
Thank you so much for volunteering to be the class client.
I know, right? I'm still a little nervous. I'll just acknowledge where I'm at right now. Yeah. And if we could do closer to like 25 minutes, that would be great, just for, okay.
You're
Yeah,
worried about the group. I hear you.
I am, yes. Yeah.
Before we go any further, I do want to name that my expectation is this is a confidential space,
Mhm.
and anybody who watches this, either now or in the recording, is requested to hold this in the same confidentiality. I want to honor that, and this is your space. I will do my best to hold it as reliable as I can.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you.
You said you came with a little nervous energy. What else would be helpful to name as we go into this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually glad you had a few minutes to present because I like walked a little loop around my house to kind of, yeah. I think I'm recognizing there's like the performance part showing up too, or wanting to show up actually, because I feel like I keep quieting him. Because I would love this to be real for you and me of like I get the benefit of the real coaching session. So I'm wanting to share probably some vulnerable things connected to my IDI that I probably wouldn't normally, right? Like share in a public setting, but um, the question that actually Dr. Walker posed at the end, I wrote in the chat so I wouldn't forget, like just for myself of what in me needs to change so others can fully belong. Because I think that might be a good entry point for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't send in the chat, I just put it for myself to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, that's probably, yeah, a good starting point for
Mm-hmm.
what's here at the moment.
What in me needs to change in order for others to be able to belong?
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm finding myself on the verge of tears suddenly. Like that's well, sort of like Dr. Walker said, that's her goal. Like that's my dream for the world. Like no, nobody feels left out, or no, or people can find who and what feels like home. Um, yeah.
We don't have to go there,
hmm
especially since this is a group. But the
That's okay.
question that comes up is what's even in the verge of the tears.
Yeah. I think because it's my own experience just recently with my spouse, and we literally just had a conversation this weekend where I told him I feel like we leveled up, um, in that he asked me a what he thought was a simple, like sort of innocuous question, um, and like just the tears flowed. And what I told him I realized was like I felt at home with someone for the first time in a long time. Um, Like I feel like he sees me and hears me in ways I haven't experienced before. Um, so it's like fresh. Like that was literally what, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So like I think it still feels really raw. Um,
Mhm.
and there's a big part of me that still doesn't want to believe it's true from like some past trauma stuff. Like it's that's really loud. So I think all that's part of yeah, what comes up for the emotions because I know that feeling of not feeling like I belong or the part I shared with him was like we've lived in the same place for almost 5 years. Like he bought us a house, and before that, I was living in apartments and had to move almost every single year because I couldn't afford the rent raise for 15 years in a row. So home has not been a thing for a long time. Yeah, so there's a lot there.
Yes, yeah. What
Yeah.
came to my mind is like holy ground.
hmm
How does that resonate?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And also like some of the things we named, like I also recognize the privilege in that, in like that, right? That he could even afford to buy a house. And so of course we're saving money because we're paying a mortgage, not rent, because it's usually less because you're not paying, right? So yeah, they're just all the pieces that pop up for me.
Mhm. So as even maybe this might be holy ground, or we treat it like that.
hmm
Um, how do we, but what's the most effective sound, doesn't it?
I
What's
follow.
the most authentic way
Mm.
for you that we spent this time together?
Yeah, I think I'd like to share part of my report. I don't necessarily have to share the screen, but just tell you, I think just remind you what's in it because we had our initial coaching session.
Mhm.
And I think with that lens of Dr. Walker's question, what it needs to change to move from the current developmental orientation I'm at to, right, knowing it's a pathway and I like there's not a like reaching anything
Mhm.
and I can make progress toward.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember, I wrote it down. I think I have it handy. You had asked me just a simple question. What would be the most helpful next step with the IDI? Simple coaching question. So I'm connecting that too, because
Mhm.
I keep moving that question in my calendar to keep coming to, and that's been over a year now that you and I had our initial conversation, which also tells me like, which is so that's why I didn't mind volunteering for this, because like, okay, I've said I want to do something with this, but I'm not doing anything with this. Just
Mm.
really honest.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think so. Let me see if I caught it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Connecting your IDI feedback from over a year ago with Dr. Walker's question,
Mm-hmm.
what in you needs to change for
Mm-hmm.
everybody to be able to belong.
Yeah.
As we dive into that, um, what do you hope to hold in your hand at the end of our time together?
Oh, I hadn't thought about results. Um, I mean, maybe there's a next step or a tangible something that I almost said doing, but I think it might be being, or maybe it's both. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I quite know, but maybe explore for the next 10 or 15 and then can we check in again about this, like to see if there's something I feel like maybe I can. So it's not just that question of what's the next step, but like literally me have the step, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was what I was thinking. Maybe an answer to the question you've been
Yes.
carrying for over a year.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I already wish we had more time,
I
but
know.
let's see how far we can get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it'd be helpful if I go ahead and share the few, like sort of where I'm at.
My question to you would have been more open. Where do you want to
Oh,
start?
okay.
But if that's where you want to start, I'm there with you.
Yeah, I think so, because there was a noticing I'd like to bring to this too to see if that might inform this.
Yeah.
Um, so my developmental orientation is similar to what you said, where a lot of people are is minimization.
Hmm.
Um, my perceived orientation was acceptance, which I think is also fairly common if I recall. Um, but I didn't remember this line when I was looking at the other report where it said this minimization as a strategy may have survival value for non-dominant cultural members and can be expressed as go along to get along.
Yep.
And so because I identify as queer and gay before that, and I mean, just all the things from like that marginalized piece, I wonder if that has informed this in some ways as survival for me. So I want to say that out loud because I'm not sure if that affects where we go or how we get there.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a core piece that's saying survive,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to progress, if that makes sense.
Wow. That's what comes to my mind is what a burden,
Mm,
trying to progress while also having to survive. How do you
mm-hmm,
hear that?
mm-hmm. I mean, that feels pretty true.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And I'm so aware that we are not alone. So if there's any time we're going a little too far,
Mhm.
I need your help that because I'm holding this balance of wanting you to get as much out of this as possible while also holding your integrity.
Yeah, I appreciate that. In this moment, I think I'm willing to go where I need to go,
Okay.
and pray that it serves community and
Mhm.
doesn't bite me in the ass later.
Never. I'm gonna defend you. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I mean, because I grew up in a very religious family in a very Southern conservative state. So yeah, there's just a lot of or I feel like maybe has been. I mean, I feel like the last few years, again, with this relationship and feeling a little more stable in my work, and I mean, other things have, um, like I feel like I have capacity for the first time in a long time. So I think that's part of why, like, yes, I'm surviving, but I'm honestly, I feel more like I feel like it's more than that right now too, though. Like I have my moments of fear and what ifs, but also realize I actually have quite a bit of privilege and um, opportunity right now in a lot of ways. Um, so maybe it's a both and. I don't know if that quite answered your question. That's just where it went in my head.
We follow where your head goes.
So, yeah,
My
that
ears perked
helps.
up when you said capacity.
Okay.
Tell me more.
I mean, I feel like I'm really fortunate in that, I mean, I was about to say all, and I think it is all of the realms that what's my language there? Maybe been fortunate enough to either fall into or co-create or whatever they are, all the things right now, they're all in passion areas. And I mean, that's been a lot of work. Like I do feel like I put some work in that to take a little bit of credit, but also feel like I'm really lucky sometimes in like how I've met, like Jill, for example, to be working with the coaching ministry. I mean, we feel like we stumbled upon each other and it was then had a random lunch conversation. And next thing you know, like, hey, let's work together. Um, no, I forgot your question, but capacity. So I just feel like those things are starting to maybe lead to, as well as maybe I'm noticing more. Um, yeah, I don't know if I have more to say at the moment, but yeah, what are you noticing, or what's the question there?
I'm noticing that you're noticing.
Mm, okay.
And I'm hoping I'm not too fast. Um, but it sounded like a turning from surviving
Mm-hmm.
to survivor.
Ooh, I don't think that's too fast. Huh. Yeah. So that's just as an interesting noticing too of So Jason's a recovering fixer slash saver slash, the white savior. Like that's a whole thing I was raised in. Um, so working my way through, I feel like out of all that for a lot of like, yeah, that's not the way to do this. And having some non-white people in my life be like, yeah, Jason, that's not the way I want to be approached. So I feel really fortunate to have that, and now it's almost like the other side of, I wonder if other people are experiencing the survivor, and I don't think I caught that because I feel like the people who are coming to me right now are surviving, and there's this fantastic, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe mutuality, or there's something there that like I feel like there's something we're connecting in, and not that I'm offering them anything, but I'm also not seeing as in like they have any deficit, or so like the coaching posture. Um, but I wonder if they're recognizing the like I want to get there, because I know I had that for a long time when I was when I was surviving. Like, my God, is there ever another side of this? Like, can I get to right the other side of surviving?
Mhm.
I don't know if this I don't I'm just saying what's coming to mind at the moment.
What I'm hearing is you're noticing, and correct me if I caught this wrong, you're noticing that people find you
Hmm.
who are um, something in them connects with something in you.
Hmm. Which to my brain doesn't make sense. But then like I feel like when you just brought that up, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's part of it. Like if there's that sort of knowing of sort of like the relating. It's, I mean, I know it's not ever the same, but there's some
Mm.
similarities.
Mhm. So common
Yeah.
ground,
Hmm.
but
But like holding space for, and what's your experience? I mean, basically, right?
but
Like,
different. Uh-huh.
yeah, knowing that my experience is not theirs. Yeah.
How do you do that?
I mean, I feel like coaching helps a lot. I mean, I get to stay curious, and that feels like such a gift. I mean, speaking of the holy ground thing, like it feels so sacred to me to be able to ask questions and let people share their experiences, and let those just be, right? Like there's nothing to change or fix. It's just what is in this moment. So that's, I mean, and because I've been coaching for so long, it feels easy,
Mhm.
but I know that's not like it doesn't come natural to everybody. But I also, I mean, I've got almost 15 years of practice too. Like this is how you do this well. Like you leave all your own stuff to the side, and sort of like what Dr. Walker put in her slide of like help me understand, right? Like I never use the words I understand. And I mean, it's been a long time since I've said that in a coaching session, right? Like of like, I will never understand, not fully.
Mhm.
I don't think that's possible for me, but I think I can, like, there's sort of like a spectrum, right? Or I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah, a spectrum of like, I can understand more as people share, but I mean, you and I could talk all day long, every day for days, and I'll still never know all the things, right? And oh, we're also like changing every day. So then there's that too.
What comes up for me is the intercultural development continuum. If
Hmm.
we took just a moment to try to use it as a map for
Hmm.
what you are sharing, where 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 do you see inner movement in you on that map?
Where do I say movement?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope and pray I'm moving from minimization toward acceptance, and it was adaptation, I think is the other.
Yeah,
Uh,
adaptation is like, yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean,
Uh, I heard common ground.
hmm.
We have something in common, and that
Hmm.
I heard minimization there. Like, I mean, I hate that word minimization because it's such a strength, right?
Yeah.
But then I also heard, but we are not the same.
Hmm.
different experiences.
Hmm.
And I'm just noticing that for now.
Hmm.
Yeah. How do you hear that?
Well, so I guess so can I check in, like meaning that as a and I don't even like positive negative as a growing edge? Is that a good way to say it?
That's how I heard it.
Okay. I mean, I love that because that feels like, I mean, it's been, I think at least a year and a half ago when I took this. So, I mean, I would hope and expect some change as, I mean, I feel like I've been more intentional over the last, well, few years, but especially the last couple years. I mean, a variety of tools and people and resources and practices and because I don't want to stay in the same place. Like, I mean, that's part of who I am too as a human. Like, I never want to feel stagnant. Um, but I think the more I coach people too, the more I want to be able to show up for them. Like, who do I need to be for you in this space and time? Which is not white Jason. Is not. I mean, if that makes sense. Like, not minimizing my stuff, but I mean, they need bigger than just me.
Yeah.
So that's that like sacred holy that's not just me, right, in the space.
Bigger than you.
Yeah. But I see that not as a deficit in me. I just get to access something more.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't hear that as deficit
Okay. All
either.
right. I'm sure how it came across. Yeah. And part of it's honestly like, and who are you? Like, and who's the person I'm journeying with? Like, so accessing their stuff is also like makes that space bigger.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What are you noticing as you unpack that?
I'm not sure I notice anything at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. I think my head went to the question, like, which is the performing, and I'm not a performance question, but is in the doing question of what do I need to do differently or how can I be different?
What
Like,
needs to change in you?
yes, yeah, yeah. What needs to change in me? Yeah. So others can fully belong.
It's good timing because we sort of slowly have to land the plane, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
um, that was the initial question you came with.
Hmm.
What have you discovered in our conversation that's connected to this question?
So you're not going to answer that question for me? What have I discovered? I mean, the thing that comes to mind right now is how do I keep showing up? Well, something I didn't say a while ago that I do know is working for me right now is I feel like the more authentic I show up with people, there's this automatic permission they feel to show up fully as themselves. Um, and then I try to be more explicit with my invitation of like, all of you is welcome here with me. And I may not always understand it or, whatever, but I want that to be welcome in this space, whatever that is for you. So maybe moving more in that direction
Wow.
or more fully in that direction. Because there are
Wow.
still moments I catch of like, ooh, I don't know if they're ready for all of Jason. And then just trusting they are. Because I've been surprised how many other people feel the same. Like they've been told they're too much or too loud or too direct or too whatever the thing is.
Mm.
And I don't know, I find that beautiful in other people. Like, show me your too muchness. Like, yeah.
There's a connection I'm making to something that you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
May I offer that to you at the
Please,
end of our
please,
conversation?
please. Yeah.
You were talking about feeling feeling home,
Mm-hmm.
being at home,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for the first time in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, as you were now sharing this aha, that was the connection since you can be at home,
Mm,
maybe you can offer that space of being at home to others, which is the ultimate, like, how do we define belonging?
yeah,
And maybe not all the time, right? Like,
right.
but every now and then it might happen.
hmm
How do you hear that?
I mean, I love this because I'm also reading Decolonizing Therapy right now, and the chapter we just finished was around home and how so many people don't have home because we don't know where we come from or we don't know cultures. And I hadn't connected it till you just, so I was like, oh, why is that sounding familiar? Oh, yeah, we literally just covered that.
Wow.
Um, so maybe that's why that's there for me too, of like why it's so emotional and also why I want that for other people when so many people are displaced or have to move for whatever reasons. Because I know that goes back millennia, right? That's not just
Yes.
today. Yeah. So we're looking like ancestral stuff too.
hmm
Yeah.
So there's that question about that step of doing or being.
hmm
What do you want to do about that question now at the end of our time together?
So I'm wondering actually if it's just me sitting with Andrea's version of the question versus your question to me. Knowing her, like when I answer that question, it probably would answer the other question. Uh,
Mm,
like I wonder if it's a process of what it needs to change, not a today and being able to answer. So maybe still exploring and discovering and wondering and noticing and yeah, with more intention. I'll say it that way though, versus a year and a half from now looking down and saying, I haven't explored that question at all.
what will help you explore and
hmm
notice?
Well, actually, I think about that book. Like I'm in a book study right now, and we're exploring that once a month. So I have therapists and coaches that are exploring that. Um, So I think that will help spur me because we're going to do that for at least a year and we're taking our time. Like we're not doing sort of like what Dr. Walker said, we're not doing the white, like chapter one, chapter two, right? Like we're going to finish this by the end of the year. Um,
hmm
like really trying to listen and feel like what are we being called to? And that's way bigger than us.
hmm
And there's not a time frame. Like it's now. It's just now. So I think that's one big way. I also think it'd be worth, I'm with my coach about every other Friday. I think I might like to bring this up in one of my sessions soon and just wonder, and maybe multiple times. Yeah. So those are my two, I guess, more tangible things that I'm taking from this.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
What loose ends do you notice as we slowly step out of our coaching session, if
I
any?
don't have any. I feel different in, I think the exploration and that like you asked me to name like, sort of what am I gonna do? Like what's next? So it feels good also to know like the things I'm heading toward that I think will
Yeah.
help me answer that question.
And how do you feel different?
I feel more grounded, a little more centered, very low nervous energy. Like I'm finding I'm standing pretty still and like I don't feel much movement inside me even versus like when we started, I could have been like bouncing off the walls, like it was that extreme.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so maybe feeling some reassurance and some affirmation.
hmm I celebrate that.
Thank you.
What would feel authentic to you how we end our conversation?
Oh, we can just say we're done.
We're done. We're
Yeah.
done. And thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I will remove our spotlights.
Welcome back, friends. As cameras are coming on, I just want to say a word of thanks for just a tremendous coaching session and the vulnerability for both of you. And I'm choked up because I feel like the mom here and two of the people that serve on my staff were just spotlighted there, and it was beautiful. And I'm just super proud. So want to just say that. So friends, in the time that we have left, I invite your noticings as well as your questions. We'll just go ahead and mix it all together because we can do that as coaches, right? So what did you notice? What did you observe about this coaching session, especially about how it connects to the just amazing information that Dr. Walker shared with us? And what questions might you have for anyone here in the group? I invite you to unmute and share, or raise your hand if you'd feel more comfortable being invited to do that.
It's Janelle, and I waited because I didn't want to jump in right away. But I think Walter, were you going to speak?
Yeah, but I can wait.
Okay. Um, I looked back. I took the IDI back in 2021, and when the invitation came to be here today, I'm like, well, where was I this last year that I missed all three other sessions? So since Sunday, I've listened to all of them, and feel really caught up. And like, this is speaking my language. This is speaking where I want to be. Dr. Andrea, what you shared resonated so well with me. And Jason, your vulnerability, and Sonja, your willingness to say moving from surviving to survivor, like I feel that that's where I am also, because of some of my own. So listening to everything, observing what's happening, um, longing to get those books, I feel like I'm home.
Amen. Thank you. I'm just going to bawl through the rest of this. Thank you very much. So, Walter, please.
Yeah, I notice how hard it is to talk about our own internal cultural, not only our awareness, but also how to move from one place to another. And I think in the coaching practice that both, I mean, Sonia and Jason were practicing, so I noticed how difficult it can be to do a coaching without having a concrete goal or a specific covenant about what we want to achieve after our conversation, because it was left open to explore. And to me, that was amazing the way it was handled. Because yes, at the end, it was possible to get to some goals, and so I am very impressed, and thank you for both. I mean, but basically you, Jason, for showing your vulnerability and for trusting us. So I really appreciate that. And there are two things that are resonating in my mind right now. When Sonia point out of what Jason was sharing when she says you are moving from surviving to survival, and that was a moment when Jason began to think more about it, and being at home and allowing others to feel at home too. So that's what I wanted to share.
Beautiful observations. What else, friends? We'd love to hear from all of you. Katie, please.
Yes. I was really, I noticed her energy level was really low. It was calm. It was, it was addictive, um, that she was just her being, her presence and how she filled that space had such a calming energy that I think it really did help manage Jason's anxiety where he was so up here, that it really helped center the space and give safety to that space. She did not react at all to the anxiety in that Jason had. And I also felt in the observations from the conversation that it connected um, with our, was it Andrea's presentation earlier of, being aware of trauma in the room and all, it's like you're entering an emotional minefield, um, and being gentle with it, to be able to unpack that all. It was a glorious display of trust and vulnerability, um, to be able to reach um, to reach the level of um, being that was not there earlier. So,
Katie, again, thank you for such insightful reflections and also pointing out, like typically when we're teaching coaching skills, we teach to try to mirror whatever we're seeing our client show up with, right? In this case, I love that Katie pointed out the advantage of Sonja bringing that non-anxious, very intentional, peaceful presence. And we could see visually the impact that this had on client Jason and how beautiful that was. And I loved Naomi's comment in the chat that she hadn't heard the word addictive before in this type of setting, but it fits, it worked. And so thank you for the giggles as well. Who's next?
I would just like to share the weaving that Sonja did through this entire coaching component was so rich that at the end we came back to the home component that was at the very beginning. I mean, she just beautifully, her loom was very even in its weaving, and it was just beautifully woven. So I just appreciate the coaching presence that you have, the coaching gift that you have. And again, thank you, Jason, for your vulnerability, because it's always hard to do these kinds of experiences in front of a group. So for both of you, thank you.
Yeah. And Tammy, thank you for the beautiful image of a loom and weaving. Yeah, it again, to use Naomi's words, it fits. It fits. Yeah, Deb, Naomi, anything else you want to add? And then Andrea, be prepared. I'm going to invite your observations as well.
This is Deb. I would just say, Jason, thank you so much for sharing this very deep well of journey. It was really, really appreciated because I related to much of what you were saying. And also, it was a joy to watch you navigate in not like a demoed, we got from point A to point B, but you were authentically riding this wave of a journey. So thank you so much. And yeah, I came into the session like a little distracted, and Sonja, your presence was just a gift. My blood pressure says thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
The power of a non-anxious presence. Beautiful. Naomi. Yeah, I noticed the questions about noticing as like coming back to, I think what Sonia mentioned in the beginning about like we're in front of a group here. Like, how do you want, I forget the exact wording, but like, how do you want to use this time fully and also like honor the fact that we're in front of a group, we're not alone. And asking those questions about like, what Jason was noticing was, to me, it felt like a powerful way to keep bringing back to, what does Jason want to do with this time? And being able to let that lead the conversation. Excellent. And Dr. Walker, I'm going to give you one more second to think about your comments. I'm going to share briefly, friends, our coaching competencies. And I just want you to look at these and think about how many of the competencies that you saw show up in this session and how many of the concepts that Dr. Walker was teaching us also embody these competencies, right? So really, as we were coming on, we were talking through, oh, we'll highlight this one and that one. Friends, I'm going to say, welcome to the entire list. Diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, justice, and belonging. It fits with each and every one of these. And without planning it to be this way, the topic that Jason brought to the table really reinforces that this is an ongoing process for each of us if we're really going to be committed to this work. I promise you, we did not script that coaching that you just saw. It was just beautiful, wonderful coaching. So, Dr. Walker, what are a couple of comments from you, please?
I thought the, the things that I noticed most deep was Sonja's awareness of power, her deep listening skills, and I'm just looking at the things that awareness of trauma, and I just loved how her voice was not the same voice we heard as she was presenting. She totally pulled back and she made space for Jason to be vulnerable. And I loved the way that happened. And I loved how it was quite apparent that you weren't just actively listening. You were listening deeply to what he said, because that sense of home that was weaved back in at the end was just powerful. And I liked Jason. I appreciate so much your vulnerability and this idea of that you said, oh, maybe if I show up authentically, then other people will feel that same way and they will feel home. I mean, that was just powerful. And so I just think um, it was just a great example of so much of what I've been talking about. And thank you, Jason. I feel like I know you a little bit better.
Yeah. Sonia and Jason, what other observations would you like to add to our discussion today, please, as we're winding to our close?
Oh, go ahead, Sonia.
You can go first if you want.
Well, just so two things that came to mind. One, a funny of like, if anybody knows me, they know I struggle being scripted, so that would not have worked anyway if we had tried to script it. Like, it would have gone off the rails. But I think what I didn't notice until everybody was sharing was, I mean, the first 5 minutes, maybe 10, total awareness of everyone here. And then I didn't realize something switched, and I totally forgot that it wasn't just me and Sonia. So I think that says something about the space that Sonia holds too, for I don't know, like me just feeling seen and heard so well. It almost didn't even matter. I mean, it was almost a complete forgetting of like, oh yeah, there are other people also listening right now.
Yeah, thank you all. And thank you, Dr. Walker, for like I learned so much in the first part of this session also through what you shared. It's more like I feel it's more like that's beyond me, that then shows up in the coaching session. I'm not taking any credit for that. That feels more like Holy Spirit at that moment. And thank you to Jason for being the client in this learning space. The one thing that I felt like in the coaching that was coming up for me is so often we address development as us doing, as if we can control development. And what I noticed in the learning was more that development happens, and the question is how can we nurture it? And what piece of grace that is, that we don't have to pull development, but that it happens. Um, and then to realize that when we can fully be at home, that is almost like, I mean, not that I never ever want to shortcut the powerful question that you asked, Dr. Walker, what needs to change in us for others to have a sense of belonging, but that's the one thing I take along as the beginning of an answer. And that is when I can be at home and I can authentically show up, that's the soil on which others then can authentically show up also. Thank you. Thank you all.
Beautifully said. Friends, thanks to each of you for showing up to help create such a space where all of this, Dr. Walker's presentation, this very vulnerable coaching, could happen. As you leave this space, friends, I want you to please hear that you are seen, you are valued, and you indeed are loved. And we just thank you for this time together. And I also share thanks to Judith Roberts for pointing our ministry toward the grant for, oh, Jason, help me with the words, Strategy Toward Authentic Diversity. That's the grant that we received that allowed all of this work to happen together. And because of Andrea's generosity, we've been allowed to record these. We can use these for continuing education. What a gift. This is holy ground. I just appreciate each of you being a part of the journey. So thank you. God bless you. Let us know how else we can support you on the journey of this good work together. Bye, friends.